Nosy Nancy's is a true crime podcast based in Austin, Texas. Due to its graphic nature, listener discretion is advised.
Oh, nosy Nazis, tell us more. Murders, mysteries, and Texas lore. Tune in tight for the latest feat. Each episode is a killer treat. Oh, nosy Nazis, tell us more. Murders, mysteries, and Texas lore. Tune in tight for the latest feat. Each episode is a killer treat.
I am recording.
Okay, well, let's start, I guess.
Okay.
Hey, all you nosies. I'm Aliqua.
And I'm Jasmine, and if it sounds like I'm talking really loud today, it's because my little microphone doesn't sound as loud as Aliqua's. But if it's only my perception of the way that it's sounding and it sounds good to her, then excuse me for talking too loud.
No, it does sound like you're yelling at me, but you know what? Honestly, it's fine because I'm used to that.
Yeah.
My whole childhood is people yelling at me, and adulthood too, so.
Some people pay for that, you know?
Yeah.
But here, everybody gets it for free.
Just really generous like that.
Exactly. You know what? I'll yell at you for free.
Not me, it'll cost you. So we're back for the 14th time. Oh,
There's just a lot going on.
Ton of stuff going on. Just a ton of stuff. And I'm working nonstop, I feel like.
Oh my God, me too. I'm so sick of working.
Working nonstop and having literally nothing to show for it. It's pretty remarkable, honestly, that I'm able to pull that off. A lot of people, can do amazing things, and I can work my ass off and not save any money. It's kind of impressive, really.
I know. Honestly.
Oh my God.
I work my little phalanges to the bone, and I really have,
nothing to show for it.
Nothing to show. I feel like my jokes aren't going to be landing if I'm yelling.
Yeah, well, good thing for you. You're the attractive one, and I'm the funny one. This is going well.
I agree. But I have been watching a documentary on Sherry Papini. Do you remember her?
No, who's that?
She was that lady that back in, I think it was 2017, she went missing and her husband was doing all of this campaigning to try to find her.
Oh, and she kidnapped herself?
Yeah, she was shacked up in a hotel room with some man.
No, it was in his apartment.
Oh, in his apartment? I thought it was a hotel room.
She was the one that was oh, I went for a run with my dog or whatever, and she got kidnapped and they found the dog, but they didn't find her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was in Southern California with her ex-boyfriend and was staying in his bedroom, and
she was trying to pull some Gone Girl shit.
Imagine nobody wanting you, so you have to kidnap your fucking self.
I know.
Me. That would be me. Yeah, what a wild story. That's the thing about true crime is that, you really can't make half this shit up. I started watching this other, little docu-series called The Curious Case Of, and it's basically, it's the same lady who I don't know if you ever saw The Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
No.
But, well, Natalia Grace was the little person that was adopted by this family from Russia, and the family basically was she's trying to kill us, and she's actually not.
That orphan lady?
Yeah, the orphan girl. They basically got her legally re-aged to 21, even though she was actually 8 years old. So they put this 8-year-old girl with a disability who needed daily medication, who needed surgeries, who needed, to be nurtured. They basically put her up in an apartment by herself,
Oh my
legally, legally, because the state of Indiana said that, yeah, no, she definitely is not an 8-year-old girl with dwarfism. She is a 21-year-old woman from Russia that's a con artist. So anyways, this like little girl was basically like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know the story of Natalia Grace, but so one of the main people they interview, I think she's like a lawyer or something like that, or investigative. She's an investigator. I don't remember. I don't really know who she is, but she started her own series. So it's like, it's the curious case of, and it's like all these little mini cases that are not similar to Natalia Grace in the story, but similar in the fact that like, what the hell? What the hell?
Where are they streaming that?
It's on Max. So I have a lot of information on this case, and so I know you have somewhat.
I have some information
as well. Yeah. Look, I know some things.
I have some information.
I know some things
that's pertaining to the case.
Let's get into it. Like, let's give the people what they want. Okay.
They did not, surprisingly enough to both of us, they did not come here just
to talk about us.
To talk about us.
Yeah, okay. I know.
So,
wait, before we start, I do want to say on the record, because I've had, because I love to make people feel guilty, but also myself, because I'm a glutton for punishment, but I've had like several people be like, why don't y'all just continue the Innocence Project? So,
are you asking me?
No, that's what they've asked. They've asked me that.
Oh, and what do you say?
Yeah, I say, well, Jasmine's not into it. I say, well, it's Jasmine runs the show, so take it up with her.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as if I'm not the sweetest girl and have the most like roll with it, laid back personality.
No, actually, Jasmine is a very steadfast in her beliefs. She's very, very hard to work with. She chooses everything all the time. I have no say.
If things don't go my way, I talk exactly like this, which is me yelling.
Yeah. No, that's obviously not true. We're making a joke because it's more me that's like that. No.
Without the yelling, because otherwise we could not work together.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I just say we're just not. It's just we just haven't been inspired. I don't know. It's not inspiring us, but we know it's like important to do it, so we've been, but yeah.
In all honesty, the Innocence Project is a super important it is a super important thing, and it is a super important topic to cover, to get the knowledge of the Innocence Project out so that they can help exonerate more people.
Yeah.
But since the Innocence Project is pretty widely known, and since the coverage for the people who are exonerated is pretty heavy, we like dipping our toes into cases that are not as widely known, or maybe people have forgotten about.
Yeah.
And the Innocence Projects, the people that the Innocence Project has helped, and the victims of the crimes, whose killers are actually caught, whose real killers are actually caught. I mean, that information is on their website. It's covered in, Investigation Discovery. What other type of true crime thingies are there?
There's a lot of coverage over these cases, which is a good thing. But we wanted to do it because we do actually really believe in the Innocence Project, and we do know that maybe malpractice and corruption in the judicial system isn't openly talked about enough. And I think that the Innocence Project, well, especially in Texas, I feel like people in Texas just really are like good boys. They're like the
Yeah.
good old boys that really
Yeah.
just back the blue no matter and don't ask questions. And we're
Right.
like, I think that it's important to, you know, respect the authority. I also think it's healthy to question it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that like the more we've done, the cases we've done, especially around Austin and in the Texas area, the corruption's pretty, and the negligence is pretty like pretty well obvious. It's pretty obvious. And, you know, so the Innocence Project, we both really believe in, and we think that it's a good, it's a wonderful foundation. And, you know, we wanted to kind of put some of those stories out there because some of the stories really are interesting, but also, you know, there has been a couple of cold cases that came out of the Innocence Project because they don't always find the person who really was responsible. But that being said, Jasmine's right. Like, there's a lot of coverage, and we really do like talking about cases that aren't as well known.
As long as the people aren't coming for us.
Yeah.
So with that, we are kicking around a few ideas for season 4 that is a little more in the scope of what we actually enjoy covering. That is one thing that we found about these cases are, you know, I mean, I think Lakewood feels the same way, but I enjoy the mystery of like the whodunits and you know what I mean, and like finding the injustice, and obviously the Innocence Project has to do with the, you know, injustice of the cases that that are put into investigation by the Innocence Project and to the people that they help, but
it's heavy. It's a heavy case. It's heavy. I mean, a lot of the cases that we do are heavy, but like, yeah, I also feel like we do. I mean, I think ultimately we started the podcast because we wanted to do like, we wanted to help out our community with whatever, however way we could. And the only way we really can do that is to like just talk about things. And I think that the Innocence Project, although it's a really great foundation and we both really believe in it, it has a lot of support. So I feel like I feel like maybe I'm just not like into it as much because I don't feel like we're doing really anything for our community other than just like,
I agree with that because
entertaining.
This podcast is a passion project. So if it's not a subject that, you know, we particularly feel passionate, that is not to say that we don't feel passionate about the Innocence Project, but I mean, they do, like, they have a lot of funding and they have a lot of backers and their names are out there. So
yeah,
it is, you know, it's just not anything that's inspiring us, like Alika said.
Yeah. But we're gonna do this episode, and then we're gonna do another episode, and then we're gonna get along, little doggy, and we're gonna do season 4. So
yeah, we're gonna take a little break and come back
again.
for season 4.
Yeah.
We just need to get re-inspired.
Well, a lot of stuff has happened. I mean, I'm honestly and truthfully, I'm still coping with the loss of my sister, and I think that, you know, that's taken a toll on me as far as like just with mental health and really just having motivation to do anything. Also, when you're at that state and then you have people like scrutinize you because of whatever their belief is, or, you know, and when they scrutinize you to the point where they're trying to harass you and publicly like put down something that you've worked so hard to like bring to life, then you kind of lose all wind in your sails.
Right.
But I'm stubborn as fuck. And I do believe, and I do believe that we have a good thing. And I think that we have a pretty solid following, even though it's not super big, you know, and I just like, I'm like, fuck that. Like, and I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna stop and let that be the reason why. If we're gonna quit the podcast or if we're gonna stop doing this, it's gonna be on our terms, not because somebody just doesn't like the way we talk or
Right.
what we say,
Yeah.
And I feel like all podcasts at some point kind of go through this. I mean, the bigger you get, the more you are open to public scrutiny and just public, judgment.
Yeah.
And we try to be very like, what's the word? We try to be pretty like PC. We try to keep things like light, but we also try to be very respectful. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, there's just people that aren't going to like you or your personality or what you have to say. And that's fine. There's a million other podcasts they can listen to,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I
So,
agree.
so I was dealing with that. And then obviously Jasmine is super in love and has
I'm
a lot
super
of
in
things going
love. We have a
on.
lot of things going on right now. And,
Hmm.
I'm trying to be like a little Martha Stewart and,
Yeah.
but not as crazy. But, we'll say
Or
Ina Garden.
blonde.
We'll say Ina
Yeah.
Garden.
Oh, God. That's like, what? Yeah, perfect. I love that.
I'm trying to be a little Julia Child and
Hmm.
be the perfect homemaker and be a little
And soon to be
cutie.
wife.
But I'm
Yeah.
also working full time, and we have dogs, which are our little children's, and
Yeah.
the time that we get together, Todd and I, it's important to us. So
Yeah.
we just had a lot going
Well,
on. And honestly, you know what? And I'll say it, it's ineffective time management on my part. I'll take the blame.
it's also on my part. I mean, like, it's both of us. It's not just Jasmine for sure. I mean, like, I've just been in this weird, I mean, it's grief. Grief is a
Yeah.
weird thing. You don't think that it affects you as much, but I mean, that was my sister. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, so
It's hard.
it is
And
hard
it's
and
nothing
people
that you
don't.
can just shake off.
Right, right. Let's stop flapping our gums.
Okay.
All right. Less yapping, more podcasting, I
Okay.
guess.
Well, I guess I will continue yapping, but
Okay, perfect.
about the subject that we came here to talk about today, which is the murder of Kim Ancona. Kim was discovered on December 29th, 1991, just after 8 a.m. on the floor of a men's restroom, in the Phoenix Lounge that she was the night manager for. She was found nude and lying in a pool of blood. She had been stabbed 6 times, once in the back and 5 times in the neck area.
Ugh,
She was brutally sexually assaulted with a wooden doorstop.
what the fuck?
The crime
I didn't
scene
read that.
the crime scene investigator with the Phoenix Police Department, Kevin Denomi,
Mm.
he did note when he was examining the scene a crucial piece of evidence, which was bite marks on Kim's left breast and her throat. He
Oh my
did
God.
he did chronicle this pretty effectively because he knew that that would be a key piece of evidence later on. And under examination, the bite marks did show to be caused by someone with crooked teeth. They found a large boning knife with a bent 8-inch blade that was recovered from the bottom of a trash can in the bathroom. And
What's the difference between a boning knife and a regular? Like, what is a boning knife?
a boning knife is used for like fishing, like it helps to debone and trim and like slice
Oh,
all kinds of like
ooh.
animal proteins and like cut things from the bone. In addition to the boning knife and the bite marks, they also did lift a Converse sneaker print from the floor. Investigators did quickly rule out robbery as a motive in the case because Kim's purse was still behind the bar and the cash register was still full. She still had money in her purse. That night, the night before, she was found. Sorry, hang on.
No, somebody who does that kind of crime is just in it for that kind of crime.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. This was honestly like a super emotionally charged crime.
This is someone who wants to hurt women for sure.
So the night before she was found, she was closing the lounge. A bottle of beer and a cocktail glass were already cleaned at like sitting on the bar, indicating that she was kind of having a drink with someone after the closing. During the investigation, the detectives learned that Kim, who was 36 at the time that she died, had a new love interest. The man was named Ray. Police found Ray's address because it was in Kim's address book, which was in her purse. So that's how they tracked down Ray.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you about Ray Krone and about the trial and everything that happened. But I do want to say that I typically do research and then I write out my own like little spiel, and that's how I usually do the podcast. But I found an article that actually was really well written. It had a lot of information. And so I'm just going to read directly from this article. This article is called Once Bitten, Twice Convicted, and it's by Sarah L. Cooper. It is, like I said, a really well-written article and has a lot of information. And so I'm just going to read directly from this article. It also does, in the original article, list all the sources, which I can either list off at the end of this segment or I can just post on our website. So this is a sourced article. So all the information from this article that I'm going to read is already been sourced, and it's an investigative journalist piece. The crime scene investigation, supervised by Detective Gregory and Detective Dennis Olson, was meticulous. Investigators took photographs and gathered fingerprints, shoe prints, fluids, hairs, glasses, and bottles from the bar area, along with Kim's clothing and handbag. The murder weapon, a knife taken from the kitchen, was found in the men's restroom trash can beneath a bundle of paper towels. The lack of ingenuity and wealth of evidence left behind suggested that the attack had not been planned. When the police interviewed Kim's colleagues, friends, and family, one name kept cropping up: Ray Krone. Kate Coaster, Kim's colleague, informed detectives that Kim had told her that Ray was going to help Kim close the bar that night. Other witnesses suggest that Ray and Kim might be romantically involved. However, innuendos were not enough. The police required hard evidence linking Kim and Ancona to Ray Krone. When Krone's phone number was found in Kim's address book, the picture came into sharp focus. So, just like you had said, they found her address book, and then he became prime suspect.
Numero uno.
Yeah.
That's number one for people who don't speak Spanish.
Who are not bilingual like us.
Like me. Me and the Duolingo bird are getting acquainted.
Apart from his undeniable connection to the victim, Ray Krone was not an obvious suspect. He was working for the post office and had no history of crime or violence. He had graduated in the top 15% of his high school class and then served in the Air Force before being honorably discharged. Dude, I was like in the bottom 15%.
Why was he honorably discharged?
I'm not sure.
Well, okay.
That's a good question. One of the first things Detective Gregory said to Krone was something like, "Your girlfriend is dead." Krone insisted that Kim was not his girlfriend and cooperated willingly with the detective's investigation by allowing officers to check his body for signs of any altercation. They found nothing. So he had nothing. He had
Nothing to
no signs
hide.
on his body. Yeah, if you're doing a violent crime like that, if you're the one that's like
If you were the
stabbing
actual
somebody like that,
person, yeah.
yeah, you would have some kind of trace evidence, blood or something. They found nothing. Krone told Detective Gregory that he had been home all night the evening of the murder. This was confirmed by Krone's housemate, Steve Junkin. Noticing that Krone's teeth were irregular, though, Detective Gregory asked him to bite into a styrofoam plate. Krone did so. Police searched Krone's apartment and car. Underwear taken from his dryer appeared to have traces of blood on it, and a few beads from the CBS Lounge's shuffleboard game was also discovered in his car. Junkin later conceded that Krone could have left the house and returned without him noticing. However, Junkin protested that this was unlikely because Krone's Corvette, which was parked immediately outside Junkin's bedroom window, made a loud rumble on starting. Most damning of all, the state medical examiner declared that Ray's bite impression was consistent with the bite mark on the victim's left breast. So because he had irregular teeth,
They were like, he did it.
He did it, yeah. And because there was blood on his underwear, which,
who knows
that's
what that was from?
Yeah,
He could have a UTI.
Yeah, but also that could be some pretty damning evidence if you think about it.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't, unless the DNA connects to him, there's really no reason to think that they're connected. 2 days after Kim's body was discovered, Ray Krone was arrested and charged with her murder, as well as rape and kidnapping. The local press dubbed Krone the Snaggletooth Killer.
Rude.
Unbeknownst to the imprisoned Krone, there were clues pointing to another possible suspect. Just before midnight on December 29th, 1991, the evening after the murder, a hooded man approached the CBS Lounge, which was being patrolled by Phoenix police officers. The hooded man attracted the attention of an officer, but as the officer approached, he ran from the scene, dropping a blank envelope on the sidewalk. A note inside the envelope read, "You're looking for an Indian about 5'8" to 6'1". I seen him about 3:30 and 4:30 hanging around out back of CBS. About 190 to 210. Get him, please. Black hair, fat looking."
If someone ever described me as fat looking.
Yeah. Imagine what they would say about me. Ugh.
No.
Blue jeans. I was too far away to make him out good. Make him out good his face. I don't want to go.
It was written by the killer.
Child, yeah. I don't want to go to something. I can't read that. Or I would come forward. I have a warrant. Oh. So I guess he didn't want to go to the police officer place because he has a warrant.
Okay.
So I don't have this is an actual picture of the note. That's what I'm reading from. It's not there's no text transcript of this note. That's why I don't know what the fuck he's saying because it's all in chicken scratch. Anyways, police inquiries revealed that there had been several prior altercations at the CBS Lounge involving American Indian males. One witness claimed that he had seen a Native American hanging around by the back door of the CBS Lounge after closing time on December 28th, 1991. Another witness alleged that Kim and Ancona had argued with a Native American on that same night because he was drunk and she'd refused to serve him. It appears that the police saw no reason to pursue these promising leads. Early on, target fixation permeated the investigation. The police focused their efforts on connecting Ray Krone to the murder and ignored evidence inconsistent with their theory that Krone was guilty. Target fixation helps explain the decision of investigators to not pursue significant leads, which was apparent that once the police had settled on Krone as their primary, if not sole suspect, the path of the investigation would be dictated by the tunnel vision.
Right.
Ray Krone's capital murder trial started on July 27th, 1992, so this is almost a year later. His court-appointed defense attorney, Jeffrey Jones, was a hard-working lawyer but had limited funds. Opposing Jones was Noel Levy, a zealous prosecutor who had the virtually limitless resources of the state at his disposal. The prosecution's case centered on three main topics: the relationship between Ray Krone and Kim Ancona, various scientific findings regarding DNA and hairs collected by Ancona's body, and the bite mark left by the killer on Ancona's left breast. With regards to the Krone-Ancona relationship, a witness testified that Krone was going to help Kim close the bar on the night of her death. Krone denied that he ever had such plans or that he had seen Ancona the night she was murdered. However, it became apparent that Krone had socialized with Ancona in the past. Krone acknowledged that he had known Ancona casually and that he had driven her to a Christmas party a week before her murder. According to the state, Krone had initially denied all acquaintanceships with Ancona, only to later admit that he had socialized with her outside of the CBS lounge. Okay, that does not look good for you,
No.
Krone.
Sorry, Krone.
Come on, Ray. Get it together. Krone's inconsistent statements, according to the prosecution, indicated that he was guilty. Krone offered a more mundane and far less sinister explanation for the inconsistencies. Krone explained that when asked, he had denied that he had been with Ancona. Krone only meant to suggest that he was not Kim Ancona's boyfriend, not that he had never been in her company. So been with, in quotations, meaning like sexual relationship.
Oh.
Like he had never had sex with Ancona. No,
Okay.
but that they were acquainted. DNA tests were not conclusive enough to include or exclude Krone. 17 single hairs had been obtained from Ancona's body, and the court heard evidence that those hairs were consistent with both Krone and Ancona's head and pubic hair.
Okay.
All of the blood at the... but this is in the 90s, and we both know from the last few cases that they really do use like hair as some kind of like steadfast proof that this person did it.
Yeah.
But now we also know that the DNA evidence back then or the DNA logistics just were not it, and they really could not tell at that time if that person was a match.
Yeah.
Other than just seeing if the hair looked similar.
Yes.
The state informed the court that there was no single patch of blood at the crime scene that could have been uniquely identified. There were no fingerprints presented to include or exclude Krone. All of the blood at the crime scene matched Ancona's blood type. The state informed the court there was no single patch of blood at the crime scene that could have been uniquely identified. So this is the same thing with like the secretor thing. Like, they could only tell blood type. They could only tell, if Ancona was an O positive or O negative, and there was O positive or O negative at the, they didn't have the DNA diagnostics that they do now. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
DNA
has really made such strides.
Oh my God, insane amount of strides. It's really remarkable what you can find out. Speaking of, not to derail this, but I did see an article. I don't know. I just kind of glanced at it. I didn't see if it was super legit, but according to an article that I read on the internet, so it must be true, somebody positively identified Jack the Ripper through DNA. Yeah, that's what they said.
Who
But it was some.
identified?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think I was like on break or something. So I didn't
Okay.
really get to investigate it very much. But
Well, I'll look it up.
yeah. There were no fingerprints presented to include or exclude Krone. The main premise of the state's case was that Krone had left the bite mark on Ancona's left breast. To prove this, prosecutor Livy called two expert witnesses, medical examiner Dr. John Piakis and Nevada State Senator and celebrated forensic odontologist Dr. Raymond Rawson. If you're asking what an odontologist is, that's a good question. And let's see. I think it has to do with like dental stuff.
Oh, okay.
An odontologist is a specialist in dentistry who studies the structure and diseases of the teeth. Huh.
Oh, okay.
They're used to identify people and solve crimes. So it's actually the forensics part of dentistry.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Piakis testified that Krone had made the bite mark. The centerpiece of the state's evidence, however, was a videotape produced by Dr. Rawson entitled Bite Mark Evidence Ray Krone. Dr. Rawson's videotape, which the jury undeniably found to be compelling, used overlapping images to demonstrate that Ray Krone's teeth matched the bite marks found on Ancona's breast. For years, the media extolled the Krone case as the perfect prosecution, a reliable, secure conviction that had been obtained through effective investigative work by the police and careful analysis by scientists. Unfortunately, numerous investigative errors and the fatally misleading use of junk science had gone unnoticed. So the defense denied that Krone had made the bite mark. Crucially, Dr. Rawson's videotape was not made available for the defense to view until the eve of the trial. Defense attorney Jones moved to exclude the videotape on the ground that its late disclosure violated discovery procedures. The trial court denied the motion. Subsequently, Jones requested a 1-month continuance so that he could uncover evidence to rebut the video and impeach its creator. The trial court also denied this motion. Ray Krone's family always believed in his innocence. In fact, Krone's mother and stepfather remortgaged their own home to pay for his legal bills. I know. I mean, God. But luckily they were able to do that.
Yeah.
Krone was convicted of first-degree murder and kidnapping, but was acquitted of sexual assault. That doesn't make sense. How can you acquit somebody of sexual assault? Like, he either killed her and sexually assaulted her, or he didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
During this, that should be a red flag right there.
Yeah.
During the sentencing phase of the trial, the state put forward evidence in aggravation to persuade the jury to return a death sentence. Conversely, the defense argued that mitigating factors should persuade the jury to spare Krone's life. The jury decided that Kim Ancona's murder had been committed in an especially heinous, cruel, or depraved manner, and that Krone's lack of criminal record and his honorable discharge from the United States Air Force did not warrant leniency. In the words of trial judge Jeffrey Hotham, the murder was so shocking and repugnant that it stands out from the norm of first-degree murders. In large part, the bite mark compelled this conclusion. To viciously bite woman's breast after violently raping and stabbing her could have only been the work of a depraved mind. This depravity exposed Krone to the death penalty, which the jury dutifully imposed. On December 3rd, 1992, Ray Krone was transported to death row. The state put forward evidence in aggravation to persuade the jury to return a death sentence. However, deeply felt, a family's conviction is not enough to overturn a criminal conviction. In 1995, Jim Ricks first heard he had a distant cousin on death row. He was immediately intrigued and began exchanging letters with Krone. After much research into bite mark evidence, Ricks made acquaintance with bite mark expert Dr. Homer Campbell. When Dr. Campbell reviewed images of the bite mark in Krone's detention, he exclaimed, "This is bullshit." Ricks came to be an integral member of Krone's defense team. The author of the mysterious note left outside the CBS lounge on the day of the murder was identified by the police in April 1992. Robert Fredrickson lived in an apartment adjacent to the CBS lounge. During Krone's trial, Fredrickson testified that he saw a quote-unquote Indian standing outside the back of CBS lounge at 3:30 a.m. on December 29th, 1991. So all these things that, that were heard in this trial, it didn't matter, that didn't matter during his trial. He was still, they never looked into that.
Right.
The state put forward evidence and aggravation to persuade the jury to return a death sentence. Accordingly, in June 1995, Krone's direct appeal was considered by the Arizona Supreme Court. Krone's appellate lawyer raised 3 issues, including the failure of the state to turn over the defense Dr. Rawson's videotape until just before the trial began. The Arizona Supreme Court reversed Krone's conviction solely because of the late disclosure of Dr. Rawson's videotape. The court found that the last-minute disclosure had prejudiced the defense because the videotape was the singular most important evidence to the jury. Krone's case was remanded for retrial. Okay, so his cousin got involved, and then they opened all these all these other things, and they were able to get him a retrial.
Okay.
In preparation for a second trial, Ray Krone engaged the services of private lawyer Chris Plourd. Plourd. In preparation for a second trial, Ray Krone engaged the services of private lawyer Chris Plourd, whose comprehensive investigation uncovered information that gave real hope that Krone would be exonerated. Noel Levy agreed to prosecute again on behalf of the state. The second trial took place in early 1996, so this is 5 years after she was murdered.
Yeah.
The prosecution's case continued to focus on the bite mark. However, this time the defense produced what it thought more than enough exculpatory evidence. The state suggested that the bite marks were as unique as fingerprints. Once again, Dr. Piakis and Dr. Rawson testified in support of this theory. This time, however, the defense called 4 nationally recognized expert witnesses to rebut the testimony of Piakis and Rawson. 3 defense experts testified that it was impossible for the bite marks to belong to Krone. The 4 defense experts suggested that odontology is as much of an art as it is a science. The defense argued that not only had Krone never owned any Converse shoes, but also the shoe did not fit. All of the shoes seized during the initial search of Krone's house were either U.S. size 11 or 11.5. However, the state produced police records that indicated that Krone had a pair of LA Gear shoes that were a size 10. These records assisted in tying Krone to the crime scene. Okay, but the person who did it, wasn't it a size 9? So that's 2 whole sizes.
Yeah, 2 sizes bigger that Ray's wearing.
That's it. It blows my mind they didn't even take that into consideration.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, I've heard of people if you commit crimes, they'll try to shove their feet into a size smaller, but your feet only bend so much,
Yeah. Krone later contended in civil proceedings that detectives had altered their records so as to link him to the shoe prints left at the crime scene. The defense experts disputed the absolutist findings of the state's experts. They further pointed out that Dr. Piakis should not have testified in the first trial because he was not a certified forensics odontologist at the time. Moreover, they clarified Dr. Piakis' use of the term consistent with, which, according to the American Board of Forensic Odontology, means could be, maybe, can't be ruled out, but is not at all suggestive that this is a definite match. The defense main expert, that was really hard for me to read for some reason. A lot of big words. A lot of big words.
You did a great job.
Thanks. The defense's main expert witness, Dr. Steven Sperberger, that's not even it. Dr. Steven Sperber testified that he had engaged in a telephone conversation with Dr. Piakas, which was corroborated by telephone records about the Krone case some 6 weeks after Ancona's murder. Dr. Sperber suggested that Dr. Piakas considered him as a mentor and thus called Dr. Sperber to ask his opinion about whether Krone's detention matched the bite mark. Dr. Sperber stated that he told Dr. Piakas that there was no match. Dr. Sperber's opinion never reached the court until 1996. That's a big piece of evidence. Like, yeah. I mean, that's a big... Okay, first of all, he's not even a certified forensics ontologist, right?
Right.
And then he said it could be a match.
Yeah.
But then...
we don't know.
But we don't know. But then... he did know because he had already consulted with his mentor who said it wasn't a match.
Right. But he's just out here like, eh.
So he was one of the sole reasons why this guy was put on death row.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
And what happened? Like, did anything happen to him? Probably not.
No. Furthermore, defense counsel Plord realized that images in Dr. Rawson's videotape had been manipulated so as to make Krone's teeth match the bite mark. Plord demonstrated that the distance between Krone's two canines was too short to match the bite mark on Ancona's breast. Nonetheless, Dr. Rawson's trial videotape displayed an exact match. Dr. Rawson anticipated Plord's cross-examination and produced a second videotape for the second trial. One aspect of the trace evidence pertained to the shoe impressions left at this crime scene. The footprints were unusually clear because Ancona had mopped the floors only moments before her killer appeared. Photographs indicated that Converse shoe prints corresponding to a U.S. size 10 or 10.5 had been left in the kitchen where the murder weapon was taken from and in the men's restroom by Ancona's body. DNA testing established that the blood found on the inside pocket flap of Ancona's jeans belonged to someone with a genotype different from both Krone and Ancona. Research indicated that the reported genotype was very prominent in the American Indian population. That was quoted. Also, a polymarker test revealed a genetic profile not belonging to Krone or Ancona at the crime scene. Crucially, hair evidence pointed away from Krone and toward another suspect in the case. 3 hairs found on Ancona's body were shown to be of non-Caucasian. This finding highlighted another instance of professional error. First of all, it meant that the testimony of state criminologist Scott Piet during the first trial was severely flawed. Second, it revealed that Piet had failed to test all 17 hairs found on Ancona's body. Failing to test any physical evidence is a serious matter, especially when the state is seeking to take the defendant's life. The second trial highlighted an abundance of scientific evidence that was available at the time for the first trial but not used. Of course, there always exists the possibility that incompetence can occur within crime laboratories, rendering their scientific conclusions invalid. Far worse than worthless, erroneous scientific conclusions are demonstrably dangerous, as false positives tending to inculpate a defendant are given special credence by unsuspecting jurors who may believe that science is truth. The risk of wrongful convictions based on junk science is compounded by the fact that very few crime laboratories operate independent of the state. In fact, the National Academy of Sciences recently recommended that Congress create an independent National Institute of Forensic Science to formulate national standards for various forensic disciplines and regulate professional training and accreditation. I agree.
Yeah.
Because the state can really manipulate the findings if it's all connected to the lab.
Exactly. No, I agree. I knew the killer wrote that letter.
So in 2000, Arizona attorney Alan Simpson joined Krone's defense team. Simpson filed a motion on March 18th, 2001 to have biological evidence present on Ancona's bra, jeans, and tank top tested. 2 days short of a year later, Simpson received the results. The crime lab reported that none of the items matched Krone's DNA. However, several items contained DNA evidence that matched a person listed on the FBI database. That person was Kenneth Phillips. At the time the DNA testing implicated him in Kim Ancona's murder, Phillips was in prison serving time for sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl.
Oh my God, you piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. At the time of Ancona's murder, Phillips was on probation for breaking into a woman's apartment and assaulting her. He lived just 600 yards from the CBS lounge. So this is the Native American that, like, that guy was talking about.
Yeah.
3 weeks after Kim Ancona's murder, Phillips was arrested for the offense on the 7-year-old girl. Krone's legal team interviewed Phillips at the Arizona prison where he was incarcerated. Within a matter of hours, they had elicited from Phillips what appeared to be an admissions of guilt. Phillips stated that he had awakened on the morning of December 29th, 1991, with blood on his jeans and shoes. He also revealed that on that same morning, after seeing the news reports about Ancona's murder, he remembered hoping that he had not committed that crime.
So he doesn't remember?
I guess.
No. Give him the shock therapy to jog his memory.
This is going to make you mad, though. Despite substantial evidence to the contrary, the jury once again returned a guilty verdict. However, because a trial judge had lingering doubts as to Krone's guilt, he sentenced Krone to a life sentence. Subsequently,
what?
Yeah.
Because he felt...
Yeah.
Like he did it?
However, because a trial judge had lingering doubts as to Krone's guilt, so he doubted that he was guilty, he just sentenced Krone to a life sentence. So he didn't give him the death penalty, which is what they were looking for again. Yeah. Subsequently, in his special verdict, Judge McDougall stated, "The snaggletooth killer was a myth. It appears frightening to think that Mr. Krone did this because it appears completely out of character. It is just as frightening to think that he did not do it and has been convicted on the basis of circumstantial evidence. One piece of DNA evidence potentially consists with his DNA and the similarity of 3 of the marks on the victim's breast to 3 of Mr. Krone's teeth." Based on the crime lab results and Phillips' admissions, Ray Krone, However, Ray Krone did walk free from prison on April 8th, 2002. Shortly after Krone was officially exonerated, the speckles of blood found on Ancona's jeans and panties were determined to be Phillips. Fingerprints found on the interior front door of the CBS lounge and on the condom machine in the men's restroom were also found to be Phillips. Dr. Piakis' examination of Phillips' normal detention revealed a better match to the notorious bite mark. The snaggletooth killer was a myth. Phillips was indicted for the first-degree murder and sexual assault, pleading guilty to both in 2006. He was sentenced to life for murder and 28 years for sexual assault.
My God. That's it?
Well, so Krone, now at the time it was age 45, returned home to his family and friends with the immense task of having to rebuild his life. Since his relief, that's not wrong, but it was actually since his release, Krone has worked to use his experience in a number of positive ways. He is currently one of the most compelling advocates for the compelling advocates for the why can't I say that? I want to say abomination, but that's not right. For the
Abolition.
Abolition. Yeah. Golly, my little brain. Abolition of the death penalty in America, traveling nationally and internationally, telling his story. In late 2007, Krone joined a panel session at the UN headquarters hosted by Amnesty International to remind the world how anyone can fall victim to wrongful conviction and the irreversible punishment of death.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for his cousin who got involved, like, he would have been sentenced to death because there was no way they were going to actually look into,
whether
Phillips.
or not it was,
I mean,
even
that's
him. And that's the thing scary. Is that, like, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, anybody can be wrongfully convicted.
Yeah, at any time,
yeah.
Which is fucking nuts.
I'm so glad that Ray was able to get out and that he is, like, kind of championing for the overturning of the death penalty, making sure that people aren't wrongfully convicted as he was. It happens far too often.
It really does. And it's, and you would think there'd be less people who would be wrongfully, convicted, but it doesn't seem, I mean, I don't think the numbers have dropped that much. I mean, surely it's probably less than it used to be, but because of just solely because of DNA, but
right.
I'm sure there's still people who are being, prosecuted on just circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
So,
well, if they're manipulating the evidence to fit in with their theory,
yeah,
and they're just using confirmation bias to, fit everything with the person who they're trying to blame. I mean, essentially, that's what they just want to get somebody locked up so that they can move on to another case, and that's not the way that justice is served. You can't just point your finger at somebody and be like, witch, and then, like, make it all fit. And that's essentially what it is it's a bunch of fucking, like, witch hunt bullshit.
There's pressure to solve cases, which, especially violent cases like that, because then the public freaks out and they're like, oh, it's going to happen to me, which understandably so, and understandably,
people feel unsafe.
Yeah, and I understand the pressure that is put on the police departments, the detectives. I know that that's not easy. And a lot of the times these detectives are overworked and underpaid, and, there's not a lot of people that are detectives. So, I know that they're working with limited resources on that end, but it's remarkable how much or how little coincidences you need to make somebody a suspect.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad.
Unfortunately, like, all these cases seem to be the same.
I know. I'm glad that they did end up catching, the real killer of Kim, and that this wasn't another
cold case,
unsolved case. Yeah.
But, like, again, like, they didn't even look into that note that guy left.
And the note was bizarre as hell.
I know, like, maybe it was even him.
Like, that was their biggest red flag of the entire case.
I know, and they didn't even try, and it didn't even seem like they even, like, looked into it at all.
No, they just were like, okay, thanks for the note.
But yet, eyewitness testimonies in court cases, or, like, in trials, are, like, is, like, the second best thing you can have besides a confession.
Yeah.
And DNA evidence. You know what I mean? Like, eyewitnesses are heavily, people heavily rely on them. So it's bizarre that this is an eyewitness that came forward and said, hey, like, I don't want to go to the police station because I have a warrant, but this is who you're looking for.
Right.
And they didn't even like investigate that. That's so frustrating.
They're just like, oh, okay. Clearly written by a criminal.
Yeah.
Since they have a warrant, so just disregard it.
That's so true. And it's like, I think which is even more which even more perpetuates the stereotype of like criminal or like, you know, institutionalized. I don't know, because like you could have a warrant for the stupidest thing, but
Running a
if you
red
have
light or something.
yeah, right, or just like unpaid tickets
Jaywalking.
or
Yeah.
yeah, or something, or just not showing up for a court date. If you don't show up for a court date, which could be a civil case or whatever, it could be a non-violent case that you didn't show up for a court date for. Now automatically you have a warrant and you're automatically a criminal. Like that
Yeah.
to me is crazy. And then stuff like this happens where, you know, you have a warrant and then the police automatically just assume that you're the scum of the earth,
Yeah.
you know.
No. It's really it's sad. Like I understand the need for certain aspects
Yeah.
of ruling out somebody's information, but I mean, in all honesty, don't criminals have the best information? Like they have
Yeah.
they have all the ins and outs
I mean,
of the crime.
they sure have relied on criminal fucking testimony in past cases
Yeah.
where they wrongfully convicted other people too. So it's
Yeah.
like they pick and choose what, you know. It's so funny to me. They really just get whatever information they can and then they
Yeah.
just run with it. But it's hardly ever the right information. And it's
Right.
just like, God, isn't justice supposed to be blind? Like, aren't you supposed to be like non-biased whenever you're trying to solve a crime, and like you're supposed to be not connected to it at all,
Yeah.
you know?
Your personal opinion should not have any weight in the
Right.
investigation.
Right. Well, that being said, let's do our missing person for the day.
Okay.
All right. So this missing person is Clay Allen Scheel. He was born August 5th, 1986, so he is 38 years old. He was last seen in Austin at the Transitional Center. He has family and ties in Polk County, Texas. He also has a tattoo of 420 on his left arm. Oh, that's not true. On his left lower leg and a small scar under his right eye. He's 5'10", and he's between 140 and 170 pounds. If you see Clay or have any information, please contact the Austin Police Department at 512-974-2000 or his sister Jessica at 662-347-2110. And I will put his picture and his flyer. Well, it's his flyer. I'll put his flyer up on the website.
Okay. Perfect.
Or, I mean, our socials.
Our socials. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll do the website.
Yeah. And I think that's it for this. It is time to do our shout outs though for our
Patreons. All right. Well, the first shout out goes to Brazos. He is actually Alika's brother, and from what I hear, he does not actually listen to our podcast very often.
No.
And but supports us in theory. So
blindly.
thank you so much, Brazos, for your support and your
blindly supports us and makes fun of me. Yes. Makes fun of me at any chance he can get. And then our second shout out is for Phil, who is from across the pond.
Oh.
And yes, very intelligent man for choosing to support us in our Patreon site. So
thanks,
thank
Phil.
you very much, Phil. You're the best. You're the best Englishman I know.
Thank you so much, Phil. Never spoke to you, but
but we love you.
But we love you anyway.
We love you anyways. And with that, I guess that kind of concludes this episode.
All right. Well, stick around for one more Innocence Project episode coming up. It will be the season finale of season 3.
Yes, and I do want to say thank you to everybody who's stuck with us during our time of
Not showing
hiatuses.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, in our very like sporadic ways. We really do appreciate you, and you do keep us going. Um,
We don't want to
so
fail you ultimately. So
no, we don't. Yeah, we
we're gonna
do. We do
do,
appreciate you.
yes, we're gonna do season 3 finale. We've got things under discussion for season 4, so we'll be coming back for season 4, bigger, tougher, louder, stronger.
Hotter,
Yes.
older.
I plan on having a glow up, and yes, I will also be getting older.
More cantankerous,
Yeah.
the huge.
Yeah. Even more jaded.
If you do like our podcast and you want to support us, you can join our Patreon for free and get free clips, or you can join for a $5 member subscription. We have about 5 episodes on there. We need to actually upload an episode for the Patreon.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. So do join our Patreon if you would like to have that special, um,
Connection.
yeah, special connection or just extra footage from us. I have made it now too, where you can just purchase those extra episodes if you'd like, one-time purchase of like $2, I think, or $1.99, something
Oh.
like that. So if you don't want to support us every month, you can just pick and choose. If you want to just pay for one episode, you're more than welcome to do that. There are some bloopers on there that is free. I am supposed to upload some more, but I'm not
Guilty
doing
as
that.
charged.
Yeah, but I haven't. So listen, get in line. My boss has a lot to say, I'm sure. Um, you can also follow us on Instagram,
Nosy Nancy's podcast.
or you can follow us on Facebook with our group or our page.
Nosy Nancy's
Uh-huh.
podcast.
Podcast or Mosey Nancy's.
Or Nosy
Um,
Nancy's. We have both, I think.
yeah, we have both. If you have any suggestions for season 4, or if you want us to cover any kind of case, I have gotten some messages from Rose, or
Oh.
from some of our listeners about cold cases that they would be interested in. You can email us at nosynancies@gmail.com. That's NOSEYNANCIS @gmail.com, for any suggestions or no, just suggestions. I don't want to hear your critiques.
No.
I'm over that. But you can email us there, or you can message us on Instagram. One of us is usually around. And I think that's pretty much it, right? Oh, we also have a TikTok, which is Nosy Nancy's podcast. So you can watch us there too.
Exactly.
But I think that's it.
All right. Well, great episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
A lot.
I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, we'll see y'all soon.
Stay tuned.
Ciao.